crypto space when politicians kind of said a lot of things. We've been promised a lot of things in this Trump administration, and now we're really getting to the kind of pudding of policy making. So we're going to be on the rhetoric, and it's where the rubber really hits the road, and we start talking about specifics of legislation and regulation of a lot of different aspects of crypto policy. So there was a big bill today announced in Congress on stablecoins. So I think that will be an issue that he'll probably address in his remarks. It was a very, very important issue in the crypto community. Stablecoins are number one asset by volume. So looking forward to hearing what he has to say about that.
Awesome. And I'm just going to remind our audience who's just joining us, we are live. We are counting down to the presser. You can see the screen here. The AI and crypto czar, David Sachs, will be speaking along with a handful of senators. Sam, I'm going to ask you the same question. What are you hoping to hear from this press conference that's happening in just a few minutes?
For me, I'm interested in not just clarity on the regulation. I'm interested in general crypto clarity. And I say this, Ben and I had this conversation, I think, a couple of days ago, but, you know, in an environment where there's almost an anything goes approach that's happening in the crypto space, you know, it was just a little more than a week ago that the president launched his own meme coin. What are they going to say that is going to either allow for those kinds of things to be a reality, or on the flip side, make even what the president of the United States did illegal in its own right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just interested in trying to understand how we're going to navigate what is just such a chaotic landscape right now. I'm not worried about Bitcoin. I'm not worried about ETH. I'm not worried about stablecoins. I am worried about the idea of what memes and collectibles and NFTs and all of that stuff are. That's sort of the lane I want to play in. And I think there's a lot of people waiting on the sidelines to just wonder what game are they even playing, and how can we succeed if chaos is the theory versus having a kind of more structured regulatory environment where we just know what we're supposed to be doing. But I don't know, right now it just seems like there's a lot of anything goes happening.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone's wondering that since Trump launched his own meme coin. But I think a lot of the people who are watching the stream will remember that Sachs recently said he thinks that NFTs and meme coins are collectibles, not securities. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that comes into the speech today, or how that informs what he's going to be doing. I know I mentioned he's going to be speaking with a handful of senators. I'm going to name them now. We have the Senate Banking Committee Chairman, Tim Scott, Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman, John Boozman, House Financial Services Committee Chairman, French Hill, and House Agriculture Committee Chairman, G.T. Thompson, who will all be joining him. The executive order, of course, that Trump signed, it has mandated him with leading a group of people to come up with a plan. And under this administration, it looks like plans are being put together very quickly and acted on very quickly. So it will be interesting to see what's said here and what comes out of it. So it's supposed to start now, 2:30 p.m. It looks like they're running late, not exactly on time, but hopefully we'll get started soon. But Ben, I'm gonna kick it back to you. You were talking a little bit about the stablecoin bill when you were just talking a few seconds ago, and that is something that has really been a push and start in this industry. We've been so close to getting a stablecoin bill, and then it's been taken away from us. Talk to me a little bit about how you think legislation is going to come to fruition under this new administration. Do you think this is going to get passed much quicker than prior administrations?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to pass in the next few weeks or months. I mean, they already passed a bill that's quite similar to the one that was introduced today by Senator Haggerty from Tennessee. And it went through the House last year, but they couldn't agree on a version in the Senate. But obviously there was a different composition of the Senate in those days. The Republicans were not in control. And also, crypto was not a political issue back then as it is now. And I think a lot of the politicians there are looking to get things done now. And we're all sort of fed up of talking about this. We just want to see them do something already. So I think there's a mood to get this done. And I think most people think that the stablecoin bill is a good place to start. And it's important for the industry. TradFi wants it, crypto wants it, we all want it, so I think it'll happen.
Ben, let me ask you a question on that though, which is, I have this thesis that stablecoins really are internet money, and it's going to power a global economy that is borderless and stateless. So when we talk about stable coin bills within the US or other jurisdictions. Do you think that's about how they can regulate their own stable coins within sort of more CBDCs? Or is this something around how we accept USDC, USDT, et cetera?
Well, the main issue with the bill is it covers the issuers, right? It's about which regulatory agencies, which watchdogs, whether they're federal watchdogs or state-run watchdogs, regulators, will be monitoring different parts of this stable coin issuance system. So the bigger banks will be federally mandated, while the smaller issuers at a state level will obviously be state-run. And that was a big issue why it didn't quite get through the Senate last year, because they couldn't agree on this kind of federal versus state, jurisdiction. But apparently they've come up with a new way of doing that that's apparently more palatable and more likely to pass through the Senate.
I see people.
Go ahead, Jane.
I was going to say, I see people in the comments like shilling their coins, right? I see a lot of XRP, I see a lot of Sol. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the president himself, we're talking about this American first crypto reserve, right? And Sam, I want to kick that back to you. You were talking about, the culture aspect of things, the NFTs, the meme coins. When you hear this like American first, I don't know, the connotation. Yeah, like, is that even possible? Like, what do you think when you hear that and you think about the projects you already interact with?
I mean, I think if you look at it through the lens of history and technology, right? The internet mainly was born out of technologies that were innovated in the USA, right? We look at DARPANET and we look at some of the early educational projects. A lot of the original early companies that were essential to networking. Now, granted, all of that technology started to flood globally, and I think that we want that. We want that to happen. We don't want this to be something we can gatekeep. But I think the idea that technological innovation should remain in America is one that we, as Americans, hold a lot of pride in. I don't think when Donald Trump says Bitcoin should be made in America, probably missing the point a little bit. But I do think the idea that crypto innovation as a key part of our technological infrastructure, key way that we can think about reimagining the financial system, the cultural system, the way that IP works, all that stuff to me is very important. And that's the stuff that I would love to hear more about that. I don't think, Ben mentioned this earlier, when they say, oh, well, NFTs or meme coins are just collectibles, that's a little too simplistic a definition, right? The Trump meme coin that now you can use to purchase merchandise, suddenly they gave it utility, right? That pass the Howey test at that moment are things that we should be asking ourselves, or are we just going to throw out all of the rules from the past and try to figure out what is next? I don't know if there is anything that one can do to completely regulate, but I do think that the idea of America not shying away from the innovation in blockchain is probably a good thing for our industry. But I do believe the industry also does want some guardrails. I think that innovation often works better in a box than in an open field.
Yeah. Personally, I think the whole idea of, and this isn't about America first or Kazakhstan first or whatever country. I mean, the whole idea of crypto and decentralization is really to get away from kind of state power. So the idea of kind of putting an America first label on something like this, I think is a bit strange. And I do find it quite strange sometimes people in the crypto community talking with an American flag over their head when, for a long time they've been talking about decentralization and about, empowering individuals really against governments or against, institutions or intermediaries to then turn around and say we want an American first thing. I think is a bit strange. And, we're seeing that with some of the politics around the strategic crypto reserve. This started very much as a Bitcoin project. It was announced by Donald Trump at the Nashville Bitcoin conference last August. And now we've seen other, US projects like Ripple, which is the main instigator of XRP, is based in San Francisco. It's very much claiming the kind of US mantle. And but I think they're really doing that, frankly, because they want to be part of this strategic reserve, and they can see a lot of value in the government or the state owning these assets and really, offering kind of a floor under these assets that can be tremendously useful. But this kind of rhetoric of US versus whatever, I mean, it's kind of a bit weird in the world of crypto. This is supposed to be a transnational or non-national movement, really.
But Ben, let me ask you, your opinion. We're about to hear a bunch of senators. We're about to hear David Sachs, right? David Sachs was, for example, some of the early money in multi-coin capital. He, has talked about doing very well on Solana. We know that Trump and his family and World Liberty are buying up a lot of different cryptocurrency and really wanting to make at least the idea of what crypto can equal from a finance perspective be something that they can proudly champion as America. Now, I know from a technology perspective, we believe wholeheartedly in decentralization and this being a global movement, especially in those locations that don't have sort of sophisticated financial rails like we have here. But I guess it doesn't surprise me to think of David Sachs and some of the folks on this who are going to, show up on the stream soon, giving it a bit of a nationalistic approach. Is that a misunderstanding, do you think?
I think it's politics, right? And they are members of an administration which is protecting U.S. interests. So, I think they would say that. But I think what is interesting is that, the U.S. is still a leader in regulation. So I think a lot of the world has been looking to the U.S. for some clarity on these issues. So everyone talks about Europe having, kind of much more advanced guidelines or regulation, but there's still a lot of gaps in that system of regulation. And they're still looking to the U.S. to show a lead here. So I think in that sense, the U.S. will lead the way on some of these issues. And even this press conference today could be watched around the world for indicators as to how the U.S. is going to go and really where the world is going to go, because we are still the leaders in crypto, and what we say in regulation still matters around the world.
Ben, it's interesting you say that, and I know, Sam and I are just firing questions away at you here, but, we're going to be in Hong Kong at Consensus in 2 weeks from now, and we look at some different jurisdictions around the world who really have surpassed the U.S. when it comes to regulation. We've seen companies leaving the U.S. for places like Dubai, Hong Kong, some countries in Europe. Do you think that the U.S. can catch up, or is it even a game of catch up, or is it just when the U.S. is here and ready to regulate, the rest of the world follows, and maybe some of the regulation in those different jurisdictions that I just mentioned changes or is more malleable?
Well, we have seen some notable companies. I'm thinking, for instance, of crypto.com is an important exchange. That they are reshoring to the U.S. That there are companies that a few years ago, during the Biden administration, said we want nothing to do with this. We're afraid of being in the hairs of the SEC. We don't know what regulation is or whether we're going to be enforced one moment to the next. They left for different places, and now they're talking about coming back to the US and serving US customers. On the other hand, as I said before, crypto is supposed to be a transnational movement. So, and a lot of these companies, they don't even have headquarters. They don't even have presences in a typical traditional way that a company might have. So I think the kind of whole idea of, being in the US and not being in the US is kind of not quite the same as it would be with another industry.
Jen, what are your thoughts on the idea of having, in essence, the insider billionaire class helping to create this regulation? I think of someone like David Sachs, who knows about crypto for sure and has been involved in a fair bit, but really comes out of the SaaS world, and was part of the early PayPal mafia squad, and has built some of his own companies. Should the people deciding be the ones who also are have the ability to profit the most off our industry?
I've said this time and time again on various different shows, but I think in some ways we may be creating some of the same problems we are trying to solve. This technology, this industry is supposed to be open and accessible to everyone, and having, that billionaire class being front row in creating regulation, I don't think they have the same purview. I think, they, and maybe they do, I can't speak for them, but I think that we need to have everyone have a seat at the table for this to be something different and for this to solve the problems that we're trying to solve. And I don't know if that can happen if the billionaire class is the one that's doing it. That said, if there is more clear regulation, the builders who are building, who are not those people, the folks who are really trying to solve problems for people across the globe, not only in America, may have more of a leeway to do that. And so, yeah, my answer to that is, I guess we just have to wait and see. And at least some progress is being made, because what was happening before wasn't really helping anyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We actually published an op-ed last week from John Deaton. He was the Republican candidate for Senate in Massachusetts. He went up against Elizabeth Warren, who's obviously the boo girl of crypto, the kind of staunch anti-crypto champion. And he very much flew the flag for crypto there. And he was arguing in this column last week about exactly this, that we should have different voices in this kind of policy-making process, that it is too much of a closed shop of rich men from crypto, people like David Sachs, Elon Musk. They came from the same company, others, that they're all sort of picking their friends to be partners on this. And that's, we know from history, that's that kind of closed door mentality, can lead to less than optimal situations in the long run. So I think we need to protect against that, and we should all be championing more.
To be invited to Capitol Hill here to speak.
And on that note, the press conference is starting, so let's take a look.
From both the House and the Senate, I want to thank Chairman Tim Scott, Chairman French Hill, Chairman John Bozeman, and Chairman G.T. Thompson. So thank you all for your leadership and commitment to addressing some of the most important opportunities of our time in ensuring that the U.S. remains at the forefront of innovation and digital assets. The president said in his executive order in the first week that it's the policy of his administration to support the responsible growth and use of digital assets, blockchain technology, and related technologies across all sectors of the economy. And he established an executive branch working group for digital assets, which includes Secretary Besson at Treasury, Secretary Noem, soon to be confirmed Attorney General Bondi, Secretary Lutnick at Commerce, and all the other key administration officials that have an equity in crypto. And similarly, the SEC has set up a crypto task force led by Hester Peirce, which is also looking at this issue. And together, our objective is to accomplish the task the president assigned for us in his EO, which is to propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stable coins, in the United States. I've talked to many founders over the past few years, and they've told me repeatedly that the number one thing they need from Washington is regulatory clarity. They just want to know what the rules of the road are so they can abide by them. We're coming off, frankly, 4 years of arbitrary prosecution and persecution of crypto companies where the SEC wouldn't tell founders what the rules were, but then they would prosecute them. And many founders have even told me stories of being debanked personally just because they had founded a crypto company. All of this approach was driving this important technology of the future offshore, and we want to keep that innovation onshore in the US. Financial assets are destined to become digital, just like every analog industry has become digital, and we want that value creation to happen in the United States rather than giving it away to other countries. This will also, I should add, be much better for consumer protection because it's easier for regulators to supervise an activity when it's onshore. And it's probably not a coincidence that the single biggest fraud in the history of crypto, which was FTX, was based in the Bahamas. By moving the innovation onshore, it'll be easier to separate out the good actors from the bad actors. And we want to encourage the good actors, the innovators, while protecting the market from the bad actors. And I think a market structure legislation with clear definitions and fair rules will do that. I want to say additionally, we're excited about working with both the House and Senate on stablecoin legislation. I know Senator Hagerty introduced a bill today. This stablecoins really have the potential to ensure American dollar dominance internationally, to increase the usage of the U.S. dollar digitally as the world's reserve currency, and in the process create potentially trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries, which could lower long-term interest rates. So let me stop there, and I want to thank the chairman here today, Chairman Scott, Chairman Hill, Chairman Bozeman, Chairman Thompson. And I look forward to working with them as part of the administration to help turn President Trump's policy into reality. This was a week one priority for the administration, and we're excited that our counterparts in Congress are equally committed to ensuring American dominance in digital assets. I look forward to working with each of you. And with that, I want to say work with each of you in creating a golden age in digital assets. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Scott. Thank you.
I think David represents promises made, promises kept. I love the campaign trail when President Trump was out there making promises, and we see today he's keeping those promises. And in so many ways, I think back to a kid as I was a long time ago, growing up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty, and hoping that the American dream would one day be accessible for me. I think that we're standing here today at the precipice of greatness for so many kids who are looking forward to democratization, having access points for their families and for themselves that makes it easier and less expensive to do business in this country. I love the concept that we see today, synergy within the administration, the House, and the Senate, focusing not on ourselves, but focusing on working class Americans who desperately need to reduce their prices and increase their access. That's what the bicameral working group will help tackle. I have a pre-existing working friendship with GT and French and John. And the good news is we come together already having proven the ability to work together to get things done for the American people. It's an exciting time to be an American. And as David said, the golden age has begun. And the good news is it's going to get better. I'm excited about what we will accomplish for the American people. I'm excited about the synergistic approach that we're taking in the House and the Senate, with the White House leading the way. Next, you'll hear from Chairman French Hill.
Thank you, Chairman Scott, and David Sachs, thank you for coming to Capitol Hill to celebrate with us the fact that in the 119th Congress, we have a bicameral project for both a stablecoins bill and a regulatory framework that will bring clarity to digital assets in the United States, so that we are the land of opportunity, the land of innovation that we have been for decades in so many other technologies. We don't want to be behind in financial technology and digital assets in the United States, but our innovators, as David Sachs reported, need clarity. They need to know what the rules of the road are, and that's why I'm excited to be here today to share this announcement that we're forming a working group on a bicameral basis between the House Financial Services Committee, the Senate Banking Committee, the House Agriculture Committee, and the Senate Agriculture Committee to make progress on that clarity for a regulatory framework and to create and structure a stablecoins bill that will lend itself to advancing America as the reserve currency of the world. This is a big issue. Bicameral support this year is dynamic because last year in the 118th Congress, we had success on a bipartisan basis in the House on both stablecoin legislation moving out of the House Financial Services Committee and for the regulatory framework moving across the House floor with a strong bipartisan vote. 71 Democrats joined House Republicans in moving that policy forward. So in my view, with the wind at our back of a leader like President Trump, who knows that financial innovation, financial technology is where America's heart is, where our entrepreneurs' our hearts are, that will lead from the executive branch. And now with this bicameral partnership with Senate Agriculture and Senate Banking, along with our House committees, I look very, very forward to the success we're going to have in the 119th Congress. And let me ask my good friend from Arkansas, a fellow Razorback, the chairman of the House Ag Committee, John Bozeman.
We're all still excited about the big Kentucky win. So it's good to be with you all. We've been working hard on this for the last 3 years. And we've had our ups and our downs. When we started working on it, crypto was gaining popularity. And then with Sam Bankman-Fried and other things, it it seemed like perhaps it was in trouble. It's rebounded, though, and is bigger than ever. So our goal is to make sure that consumers are protected, make sure that the industry, in order for it to grow and be able to offer all of the things that it does offer to the various disciplines that are out there, whether you're a bank or whether you're investing a client's money for their retirement or whatever, you've got protections, there's structure in it, and it will allow the industry itself, because it is regulated, people have confidence in that, to grow. It's a little different than our normal situations in this sense. We've got these jurisdiction things. So I'm the chairman of AG. Why am I here? Because we have the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, and some assets are commodities, some are securities. So the SEC has jurisdiction over the securities, CFTC has jurisdiction over the other. So the idea that we're working together, again, we've all been working separately. We've made progress over the last several years, but working together now with purpose, and then also having the White House, having the Czar over here, again, to visit with him and really set up a structure so that we can get a final structure to make this thing work is very, very important. So I appreciate Senator Scott, I think, really coming up with that idea. And I think it's a good one, and we're looking forward to actually get some things accomplished in the next several months.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Congressman G.T. Thompson, chair of the House Agriculture Committee. And this is what we're doing today is sort of the next step in what will be a milestone, which will be a great accomplishment for our country. America really was a leader when it came to Internet 1.0, right? It was the Internet of knowledge. And the Internet 2.0, again, it was America that led that for the world, not just for our citizens, but for the world. And that was the Internet of things. And then Internet 3.0 is what we're talking about today, and that's the Internet of value. And we're approaching it in a principled way. My colleagues here mentioned a couple of those. Number one, do no harm. Protect consumers, provide that regulatory structure, that certainty, both for the industry, but quite frankly for the consumers as well. And secondly is foster innovation, because the opportunities are just really are unimaginable. Well, what I believe is that whatever's over the horizon is going to be very, very exciting. So I'm really, first of all, just very thankful to President Trump for his historic efforts to bring regulatory clarity to the digital assets markets. His leadership with the work that David Sachs is going to lead on his behalf is going to be a game changer for American competitiveness in the global race to build the new economy. The president could not have picked a better person to helm his AI and digital asset efforts. David brings a wealth of experience in exploring new technologies and building successful businesses to this new role. We've had great conversations, and I know that he is laser focused on bringing certainty to digital asset markets. I want to congratulate my friend, Chairman French Hill. He is the right man to lead the Financial Services Committee in the House at this moment, in this time. And he's a great partner and the type of leader that we need to advance this issue. We worked incredibly well last Congress together alongside Patrick McHenry, and I'm excited to build on that work together. I also want to congratulate our newly elevated Senate colleagues, Chairman Bozeman and Chairman Scott. Perhaps there's no one more pleased than me to be able to say Chairman Bozeman. John and Tim and their members are going to bring a wealth of talent and expertise to this discussion from the Senate majority. We did incredible work in the House last Congress in the 118th, and I'm proud of the efforts that went into our historic vote on FIT 21. I'm equally excited to have these partners and a new administration in place to be able to finish the job. I'm thrilled to lead the House Agriculture Committee members as we work with this incredible team to put a bill on President Trump's desk. And I think at this point, we're going to be in a position to take a few questions.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to take some questions from the crowd. When you direct your questions, can you please say your name and how you're with? Emily, we'll start with you.
Emily Wilkins, CNBC. Thanks so much for holding this today. I wanted to start off, when you're talking about legislation, can you talk a little bit about FIT 21 last time, the bill that you plan to introduce again? What differences are you going to see now that we have a trifecta in Washington?
Well, thanks, Emily. We did do good work, good, strong bipartisan work on FIT 21, which was the clarity for a market structure bill. That bill, I think, had the basics for the exact bill that we'll propose to introduce again in the 119th Congress. There may be some modest changes, but it had bipartisan support. We did a lot of work in our markup and in the floor preparation for it in both the Ag Committee under Dusty Johnson leadership and G.T. Thompson's leadership, and in House Financial Services. So on the regulatory framework bill, that'll be the approach that the House takes. On stable coins, I think you'll see us have a bill that's very similar to the approach that's been taken in the Senate. Recently, Senator Hagerty's introduced legislation. That bill was closer to the original proposal that Patrick McHenry put in place early in the 118th Congress, and I think you'll see the House expose a draft for stable coins that would be similar to the approach taken by Senator Hagerty. But let me ask GT or to comment or Tim.
So I established this year a digital asset subcommittee so that we could take a deep dive into market structure as well as stable coins. Good news is stable coins led by Bill Hagerty on the Senate side out already today. We've seen Cynthia Lummis as a co-sponsor. Market structure is a place where you have left and right leaning in. We have members from Gillibrand and Lummis working together in the past, now working together in the future, coming to the table to create the framework for the Senate so that we can harmonize FIT 21, the parts that we see as a path forward to a signature into law. So the good news is, from my perspective, having the Digital Asset Subcommittee really working on the market structure at the same time, simultaneously having Bill Hagerty lead the conversation around stable coins, having that bill out for us to take a look at, and there will be an amendment process, will be a part of that for us. And then hopefully, very quickly, we'll see the House, they're working on it as well, so we'll have a legislation that's able to go to the President's desk.
Let me just say, I'm very proud of the work that we did in 118th with FIT 21, and that was done in, you heard others talk about, we had Republicans and Democrats, certainly in committee and on the House floor, a significant vote that we achieved, but I like to say we achieved that in a tripartisan way. We worked in bringing the industry, bringing key stakeholders to the table, and so I look forward to, quite frankly, on working with my colleagues here and President Trump to continue that process of refining what we do, whether it's market structures and the other aspects of this bill.
Brendan Peterson with Much More News. I wanted to ask if you all are thinking about making changes to anti-money laundering law as a part of this push, given the concerns we've heard about banking, the crypto sector, and beyond, and the broader concerns about money transmitter licenses and the sensitivities of AML.
Yeah, we're certainly open for discussion. One of the things that the subcommittee will take a look at is the whole playing field. I mean, at the end of the day, to get all of our members on board, we're going to have to be open to comments and thoughts on the issue. I think we're in a good place. The Bank Secrecy Act is something that we've discussed with the other side. They have a focus on it. I think that the broader conversation should not be about digital assets alone. It's about bad actors doing bad things by any means necessary. And so having that conversation from a panoramic view and not simply from an digital asset perspective is going to be important for us to get to the end of that conversation.
Brendan, I would add, having been the subcommittee chair in the last Congress, and Brian Stiles is going to have that mission this time. He'll do an excellent job, I think, on the market structure bill and the stablecoin bill as it relates to the security aspects of it. We were very sensitive in the 118th Congress about the law enforcement aspects of digital assets, not any different than we are about any other means of transfer of or payment method, whether you're talking about cash or the ACH system or real-time payments. This is an important point. I agree with Senator Scott completely. We'll listen to our members. But in the drafts that we pro-offered last year that, as I say, we had bipartisan support for, they had strict AML standards in them for this digital arrangement for digital assets that are not unlike the requirements out in the analog financial services space. It's why we call the bills fit for purpose, because this is not an intermediated form of finance anymore, and so these laws have to reflect how transactions are conducted. But AML and BSA are important for every member on both sides of the Capitol.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. For both of the stablecoin and the FIT bills last year, I'm just curious this year whether you have any idea of the timeline when you expect to get those worked through Congress, and then also could this ride along anything like the Farm Bill, for instance, given the agriculture connection?
Well, we have to work on getting the Farm Bill. and we're going to do that. The time-wise, I think one of the most important things we're doing now, with every Congress, we have new members that retire or are defeated, and we have new members coming in. So we're starting that now and have started member education. And quite honestly, crypto is not the easiest thing to wrap your mind around. Not everyone comes into Congress with a good, full understanding and a thorough knowledge. And so member education is what our first goal is here. And then how it times up, it is, I think we've shown the ability to be able to move a market structures bill, well, FIT 21 as a whole, out of the House in the past. I think we're probably in a really good position to, when we conclude our work and preparation this time around, to be able to do that. So I don't see this being attached to a farm bill.
Thank you.
Hang on one second.
I would say, if I was thinking about this a little bit, I think what we have is an opportunity to get things done. My theory is the first 100 days of a new administration is important. On the Senate side, my goal is to be as aggressive as possible to achieve an objective of having bills through the Senate in 100 days.
Just to go back to Emily's question on this and combine it with timing, Maeve, is here's the way to think about it. We did a lot of work in the 118th Congress in the House. So we're prepared to move forward in the House Financial Services Committee, and I won't speak for Chairman Thompson, by introducing legislation or having discussion drafts of our legislation, attaching those to a set of committee hearings. But it's exactly as GT points out. We have new members, we've got to do new member education. And so we have to level set here. This is why Chairman Bozeman and Chairman Scott have stepped up digital assets at a subcommittee level to bring members along and do that member education here in the Senate, something that in the House, we had the benefit, obviously of 2 Congresses working on that. So I think a key element now, though, is the education and technical assistance that can be provided to members both in the House and Senate from the executive branch now, as President Trump's leadership posts are confirmed, and key among them is his AI and crypto advisor, David Sachs. And David, would you want to speak to this issue of helping members come up to speed?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what we're here for, and I actually did a session even before the start of this Congress with Speaker Johnson. We did a great sort of open dialogue with members of the House in that case, and I think part of what we're here to do is provide resources on education. Some of them can be outside advisors, kind of luminaries in the industry, and we're talking to a lot of those people. And then, I'm also available anytime to talk to members about this. It can, crypto can be a esoteric subject, and it is good to to explain it, to kind of demystify it, because I think once you understand that, you've kind of got the cryptocurrency itself, like Bitcoin, but then what it really runs on are blockchains, which are just distributed ledgers. It's really a new type of decentralized computing platform, and there's a lot of things that can be built on that computing platform. So in any event, we're happy here to provide those resources to help explain it, both on Capitol Hill and beyond.
Thank you, Jasper Goodman with Politico. Thanks for doing this. Senator Hagerty is out with a stablecoin bill today. Given that that's out there and that there's been more consensus in the past on stablecoins as opposed to market structure, do you plan to move first on stablecoins ahead of market structure? And relatedly, to what extent in both of these processes do you plan to engage Democrats versus going at it alone now that you have the trifecta?
Yeah. So the bill's out, as you know. We have been working with Democrats already on the bill. You'll see co-sponsors will line up on both sides. Good news is that the bill is moving quickly. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that a place where you see very little bipartisan coalition building, the members of the committee, as well as folks like Gillibrand off the committee, are very anxious to have a win in this digital space. And so for the first time in a long time, there's a reason to take a deep breath and release it, because the legislation moving forward very quickly is happening. Good news is they have had, as French said, a lot of time working on the legislation as well. Finding the places where there are disagreement will be the key for us getting it to the president's desk. And that's where I think the task happens next, is to take a look at the component parts of Hagerty's stablecoin bill. But that's what we're moving first, is stablecoins.
In the House, and I'll speak for the Financial Services Committee and then yield to my friend GT, we're proposing that we'll essentially move the stable coins and a FIT 21 type structure, as I've now answered that question 2 or 3 times, on a similar track. Meaning we're going to begin that process where we left off in the 118th Congress, and we worked hand in glove diligently with our colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle in the House. Many of the ideas that are reflected in the market structure bill and some in the stablecoins bill reflected views from the minority party in the House. And we'll continue to do that. And you'll see that as we move forward with a set of hearings and the discussion. So I remain committed to trying to make these bills bipartisan success in the House. And certainly we'll cooperate with the senators and try to be a part of any kind of educational effort here on a bipartisan base to support their efforts here in the Senate. GT.
I have the same commitment, so I really don't have anything additional.
All right, last question, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Jennifer Schwanberger with Yahoo Finance. On the campaign trail, the president said he supported the Bitcoin reserve. I'm curious what the plans are for that at this point, and what the Biden administration could consider putting crypto into a sovereign wealth fund.
So one of the things that the president instructed us to do was to evaluate the idea for a Bitcoin reserve. And so that is one of the things, that's one of the first things we're going to look at as part of the internal working group in the administration. So as soon as we get all that set up, we're still waiting for some cabinet secretaries who are on the working group to get confirmed. So we're still in the very early stages of this. But that's one of the first things we're gonna look at, is the feasibility of a Bitcoin reserve. I think the concept of the sovereign wealth fund is a little separate, and you'd have to talk to Secretary Lutnick, or soon to be Secretary Lutnick, about that.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
That was the first press conference featuring crypto and AI czar David Sachs. Sam, going to kick it off to you for your thoughts. But first, let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin. I believe when we started this press conference, it was just above 100,000. I could be wrong, but we are at 99 or just around $99,000 now. And I saw some of the comments coming through that this could have been an email. And I got to say, I kind of agree. Sam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would think that in an environment where attention is so much the game we play, to have such